Howdy y'all, welcome to Adventures of Kendall. Today's episode is going to be a fun, rip-roaring, gun-tooting adventure because we're going to learn the story of Butch Cassidy. Now during my previous adventures to Utah, we saw many monuments dedicated to this guy, and I thought it'd be a fun idea to tell his story. So let's get going and have a fun western adventure as we learn the story of Butch Cassidy. Giddy up! The story of Butch Cassidy is quite a colorful one in the history of the Wild West, and it starts here in Circleville, Utah. On my road trip to Utah, we stumbled upon the childhood home of Robert Leroy Parker, aka Butch Cassidy. Let's go check it out. Robert Leroy Parker was born in Beaver, Utah Territory on April 13, 1866. Robert was one out of 13 children of parents Maximilian and Ann Parker. Maximilian and Ann Giles Parker were 13 and 14 years old when they came to this country. The Parkers were immigrants who were also Mormon pioneers. The family farm was located in Circleville, Utah. Seeing the interior of this cabin will make you appreciate the strength of Miss Parker. She had to raise all 13 kids in this one-room cabin while her husband was always at work. There's also the small barn that was here on the family farm. Robert Leroy left home as a teenager and worked on several ranches. It was at one where he met cattle thief Mike Cassidy. He later became a butcher's apprentice in Rock Springs, Wyoming, where he was called Butcher. This would ultimately morph into Butch. He later added the name Cassidy to honor his old friend and protect his own family's name. Butch's first criminal offense was minor. He broke into a clothier's store which was closed when he arrived into town. He stole a pair of jeans and a slice of pie, but left an IOU willing to pay for the items. He was charged with theft by the store's owner, but was acquitted by a jury. He continued to work as a ranch hand until 1889. On June 24, 1889, Butch and some associates performed his first bank robbery in Telluride, Colorado at the San Miguel Valley Bank. They took $21,000 or $605,000 in 2020 money and then fled to Robbers Roost in southeastern Utah. Cassidy was arrested and sent to prison in 1894 on charges of stealing horses and operating a protection racket on local ranchers. Think of it as a cowboy mafia. He was sent to prison in Laramie, Wyoming. Butch would serve 18 months on a 24-month sentence and was pardoned by the Wyoming governor. Butch would form a new group after being released from prison in 1896. Butch was associated with a wide group of criminals who collectively became known as the Wild Bunch. The group would become known for their robberies, whether it was trains, banks, and payroll operations. A key component of the robberies was that as long as they took the money, they didn't need to shoot anyone, so most of the robberies were non-violent. One of these train robberies occurred on June 2, 1899, near Wilcox, Wyoming, and it went down like this. They first stopped the train by flagging down with red lanterns. The engineer, thinking there was a washed-out bridge, immediately stopped the train. Next, they would approach the train, held up the crew, detach the express car from the rest of the train, and then move it further down the line to conduct a robbery. Lastly, if they weren't allowed in, they would pack the door with dynamite, set it off, and blow up the car, resulting of money being flown out onto the ground and damaging the car. After a robbery, the group would typically separate in different directions and ultimately meet up at determined locations. Their hideouts included the following. Cassidy's ranch, which was in Dubai, Wyoming, was located across the state from the hole in the wall. The ranch, which included this brand, was assumed to be a facade for the criminal activity and was not financially successful. Their other hideout was Robberies Roost. It is located, in quotes, 50 miles east of Hanksville. Robberies Roost Canyon is a remote tributary of the Dirty Devil River. Their next hideout is where we're going real quick. Some of you may be familiar with this area. This was the hideout location for Butch Cassidy and his gang. As you can see, a remote location like this is a great place to hide for an outlaw. But it wasn't just Utah where they did most of their crimes. The geography covered during their criminal activity was throughout the western United States, from Wyoming to Texas. However, that success in America ended in December 1900. While staying in Fort Worth, Texas, Cassidy would pose in the famous Fort Worth 5 photograph with members of his crew. This includes Harry A. Longabaugh, aka the Sundance Kid, Ben Kilpatrick, who also went by the Tall Texan, Will Carver, and Harvey Logan, alias Kid Curry. Sometime later, an unnamed Fort Worth detective was in photographer John Swartz's studio when he spotted the photograph and recognized 2 or 3 of the men in the picture. He sent the picture to the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, who later printed wanted posters using that picture and their real names. This photo will be the 1900 equivalent of a bad social media post made by a criminal, especially when it comes to helping the police track them down. The added pressure from the photograph, along with the continuous search of the Pinkertons and private security forces such as the Union Pacific Police Department, caused Butch, Sundance, and Sundance's wife, Etta Place, to leave the United States. They departed from New York on February 20th, 1901, on a ship bound for Buenos Aires, Argentina. There they settled in a 4-room log cabin on a 15,000-acre ranch that they purchased on the east bank of the Rio Blanco near Cholula. However, their non-native appearance caused suspicion in Argentina, especially with the robberies happening there, and they were forced to flee the country and head to Bolivia. There, in the small town of San Vicente, Bolivian forces are said to have shot and killed both Butch and Sundance. However, rumors persist that he survived the shootout in Bolivia and made it back to the United States. In fact, members of the Parker family state he passed away in 1924 and is buried in a secret location. No matter the case, the legend of Butch Cassidy is alive and well today, especially in pop culture, where he's represented in comic books and movies. More famously, he was played by Paul Newman in the hit 1969 film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And that's the story of Butch Cassidy. And now, let's head back to the studio. Did you have a great time learning about Butch Cassidy? It was a fascinating look into this one figure from Wild West history. I especially enjoyed seeing his boyhood cabin in Circleville, Utah. It was quite a surprise to see in Utah, especially considering that the trip was meant to chase the Union Pacific big boy at the time. It was wonderful to see that cabin. Anyway, I hope you're ready for next week's show. It's going to be a very elegant place, a one-of-a-kind hotel that I think you'll love. It's the legendary Madonna Inn in San Luis Obispo, and I can't wait to show you this wonderful complex. If you have a location for us to go on, comment or email down below. We would love to see your suggestions, and also subscribe and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We would love to see your faces. Now that's all the time we have here on Adventures of Kendall. See you later, folks, and may your gifts bless the world.